Have you ever seen someone ruin their own life in a single sentence? I witnessed it happen at my cousin Ellie's wedding reception. It was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, a fairy tale come true after dating James for 7 years. The ceremony was beautiful, held in a historic chapel with stained glass windows that cast colorful light across the aisle as they exchanged vows. The reception was at a vineyard overlooking rolling hills. Everyone was drinking, dancing, and celebrating. I was at the bar getting another glass of wine when I heard the DJ announce it was time for the best man's speech. James's brother Mike stood up, glass in hand, swaying slightly. I knew Mike had always been the wild one. The stories about his partying were legendary in the family. But surely he'd keep it together for his brother's wedding, right? Ladies and gentlemen, Mike started, his words slightly slurred. I've known James my whole life, obviously. Polite laughter rippled through the crowd. And I've known Ellie for 7 years. Ever since James brought her home that Christmas, I noticed James's mother shifting uncomfortably in her seat. Something felt off. What a day that was, Mike continued. James walks in with this gorgeous woman, and I remember thinking, damn, my brother finally did something right. More laughter, though a bit strained. I glanced at Ellie, who was smiling politely, her hand clasped tightly in James's. But seriously, it's amazing to see you two finally tie the knot, especially after Vegas last year. Am I right, James? The room went silent. James's face drained of color. What? Mike looked around, confused by the sudden tension. Come on, we all make mistakes, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except herpes. That shit comes back with you. I watched Ellie's smile freeze on her face. She slowly turned to James, whose eyes were wide with panic. What is he talking about, James? She asked, her voice barely audible. Mike, oblivious to the damage he was causing, pressed on. I'm just saying, bro, you really dodged a bullet when that stripper didn't find your real number. But hey, you cleaned up your act, and now you're married to the love of your life. The silence was deafening. Someone finally grabbed the microphone from Mike, who looked confused as he was ushered back to his seat. Is that true? Ellie asked, her voice breaking. James stammered. It's not what it sounds like. It was my bachelor party. Your bachelor party was 3 months ago, Ellie said. Vegas was last summer. I watched as realization dawned on her face. The business trip he'd taken, the way he'd been distant when he returned, the unexplained charges on their credit card that he'd brushed off. She stood up abruptly, knocking over her champagne. Excuse me, she whispered, then walked quickly toward the exit. Her mother followed, along with her 2 best friends. James sat there, his head in his hands, as whispers spread through the reception. Mike, finally sensing something was wrong, asked loudly, What? What did I say? The rest of the reception was painfully awkward. Ellie never returned. Most guests left early, making polite excuses. I later learned that Ellie had James's bags packed and waiting on the porch when he finally went home. The honeymoon to Bali that they'd spent months planning became Ellie's solo healing journey instead. 1 sentence. 23 words about Vegas, a stripper, and a dodged bullet. That's all it took for Mike to destroy his brother's marriage on the very day it began. James and Ellie's divorce was finalized 6 months later. And Mike? He wasn't welcome at family gatherings for years.